Ayo had no dearth of friends and relatives to give him company ever since his sickness, even though he always preferred to be alone. When Oja Sweepy and Pastor Ayui entered Ayo's room, there was complete silence. Oja Sweepy stopped at the threshold and fixed her gaze towards the right side of Ayo's pillow. A puzzled pastor also looked towards Ayo, not knowing what was going on. Oja Sweepy shifted her glance from Ayo's pillow to the back door of the room. In that pin-drop silence, they saw the back door open by itself. It all happened in about 40 seconds. Oja Sweepy drew closer and sat near Ayo's pillow, the place she had been staring at. "She was sitting right here," she said. "Who?" asked the rest in unison. Without paying heed to their question, she continued, "Indeed, she deserves the name Philava. She is really beautiful." She was sitting very seductively and stroking Ayo's hair. Everyone in the room, including the pastor, were so astonished that they were at a loss for words. "Ayo," she called out. To everyone's surprise and relief, Ayo responded with a "ho," meaning yes. Ayo had not been talking for the past 2 weeks, but now his voice was clear. Oja Sweepy asked gently, "Ayo, do you want to get well?" He looked away and was silent. Oja Sweepy continued, "Do you want to end your life like this?" He looked at Oja Sweepy and shook his head. "Do you want me to pray for you?" Ayo nodded his head but said he was afraid of her. Oja Sweepy assured him that the devil had no power over the children of God. She told him that there was a wound in his chest, and if he was willing, she would close it. "Once it is closed, she will not be able to keep you under her control," said Sweepy. Ayo had not heard anything about the healing power of Oja Sweepy before, but he felt that whatever she was saying made sense to him, so he asked her to pray for him and heal the wound. With her right hand, Oja Sweepy touched Ayo's chest and rubbed it for a few minutes and prayed for him. She told him and his family members that the wound was closed and there was no need to worry. She said the goddess will not be able to harm him so long as he resists her seduction, and in order to do this, he must live a godly life. Oja Sweepy asked him to come to her house the next day where they could discuss more over lunch. Pastor Ayu asked her in surprise, "How can he go in this condition? Are you sure the devil will not come back?" Sweepy assured him that the passage of the goddess to Ayo's heart had been shut, so even if she would come back, there was no chance for her to possess him. However, she said if she does not feel like coming alone, he could bring friends along. Many who were present there were curious to know about this KASHONG goddess, whom they had heard of earlier, but was not sure whether all those stories about her were really true. Apong, Ayo's auntie, who was taller than most Tangkhul women, asked, "What is she like?" Oja Sweepy looked at her and said, "Well, she is as big and as tall as you, but maybe 100 times more beautiful than you." Everyone present, including Apong, roared with laughing. Even so, she got so uneasy that she did not ask further questions. She added, "Goddess Philava must be the epitome of physical beauty. Her beauty and the seductive look would have been irresistible for any man or god. I wish you all could behold her beauty, but unfortunately, or rather fortunately, she cannot be seen by everyone." According to the descriptions given by Oja Sweepy, KASHONG PHILAVA could be compared to that of the Greek goddess Aphrodite. She must have been as dazzling and seductive as goddess Hera when she borrowed the bosom of goddess Aphrodite to seduce her husband Zeus during the Trojan War. Among the lovers and victims of goddess Philava, Ayo is considered an exceptional one. Unlike most of her victims who were tall and handsome, Ayo was just 5'7", an average height for Tangkhul men. Compared with many other handsome Tangkhul men, he was an average looking. What made goddess Phila Ava choose him remains a mystery. The next day, he stood in front of Oja Sweepi's house in a black t-shirt, blue denim jeans and white Adidas shoes. Though not very handsome, he certainly has an attractive smile and innocent look, thought Oja Sweepi. She came out to welcome him. Her husband was already seated in the drawing room and their 3 children were studying inside. They shook hands and greeted each other. Oja Sweepi's husband went to the kitchen to prepare tea. Without mincing words, Oja Sweepi asked, "So, Ayo, how did it all begin between the two of you?" Ayo was silent, leaned back a bit and looked out of the door as if to set his mind wandering beyond the mountains, and thus began. I was staying in Ukhrul since 1992. I rented a room in Violin Bazaar. And after passing my class 12 from Alice School, I took admission in Bharati College. Most of the time, classes were not held either due to the lack of teaching staff or the professors simply did not come to college. We would see only 1 or 2 teachers around like Oja Saipong and Oja Angam. After admission, students and teachers disappeared from the college premises. We did not really learn anything worthwhile from the college. Students and teachers were seen in the college only during admission and exam time, said Ayo. Since video halls were plenty in Ukhrul town and we did not have anything else to do, we mostly spent our time watching movies and traipsing around town. One night, while coming home after the movies, I saw a girl standing at the pawn shop not far from where I was staying. Never had I seen such a beautiful girl before. She smiled at me. I looked at her again and she was still smiling. I just could not resist such a beautiful smile, and so I smiled back. I had a sleepless night thinking of her and was dying to meet her again. After lunch the next day, I came out as usual to roam about town. Again I saw her standing at the pawn shop. My heart started beating faster. I had been dying to see her, but I did not have the courage to go up to her and talk. And again she gave me that irresistible smile, but I quickly looked away as if I did not notice her. I don't know why I did that. Maybe I was too nervous. I wanted to turn back to see her, but did not have the courage. I walked down to Vino Bazaar as if in a hurry, but all the time I was thinking of her. I loitered about and went back after some time to see if she was still there. When I reached the spot, she was gone. So I went back home and stayed the whole day in my room thinking of her. In the evening, as usual, I came out to watch a movie. The show would start at 7:30 p.m. I reached a little early as I had nothing else to do at home. I bought the ticket and went in to watch the trailers, and I could see her already seated in front in the right corner. Even from the back she looked familiar. I sat staring at her. She turned back and looked right at me with that smile again. I looked away. More people came and soon the hall was packed. I don't remember what the movie was all about because I was too distracted by her presence. The movie ended at 9:40 p.m. This time, I was encouraged by her constant assuring smile, and so I was determined to meet her after the movie. I began walking slowly out of the hall. Near the exit, I felt a tap on my shoulder. As I turned to see who it was, she said, "Hi, Ayo," and smiled at me again. I was taken aback by her boldness and was flattered rather than alarmed that she knew my name. I asked how, and she said she had known me ever since I came to Ukhrul. She then told me that she liked me. Since then, we met almost every day till Awotare intervened and asked me not to meet her again. For how long you saw each other? Asked Ojaswipi. Almost a year, said Ayo. Did not you suspect even once that she was not a human being? No, I did not. But I remember one day while we were watching a movie, she said she had to go home. I told her to wait for a few more minutes as the movie was getting over soon. She insisted on leaving, so I came out to drop her. She headed towards the Viewland cemetery. All of a sudden I got scared and asked her where she lived. She pointed towards the cemetery. When I looked, it was very dark and I could not see a thing. I knew that if I dropped her, I would be too scared to come back alone, so I asked her to go by herself. Reluctantly, she agreed and went away towards the dark alley alone. Did you ask her then the next day where she lived? Asked Ojaswipi. No. Whenever I came out from home, she was always there by the road waiting for me, so I never got a chance to visit her house, and it never occurred to me to visit her house. Now, I feel so strange about the whole affair, but it was quite normal when I was with her. Awatari also tried to reason with me. At first, I was too stubborn to believe him, but later I became suspicious, said Ayo wearily. How was that? Asked Ojaswipi. Before Ayo could give an answer, Sweepy's husband came and inquired, Is not it over yet? He said that the children were hungry and so he requested them to continue after lunch. Ojaswipi was so engrossed with Ayo's story that she had forgotten about the lunch. She laughed out loud and apologized. She rushed to the kitchen and set the table for the meal. Ojaswipi said grace for the meal, which was chicken, salad, and boiled mustard leaves. Ayo had not been eating well all these days. The chicken soup tasted heavenly, and after 3 servings, he burped loudly. He wanted to have another serving, but the burp made him hesitant to ask for more. When Ojaswipi came with a bowl of rice to serve him again, he shyly said he had had enough. They had warm water and jaggery and went back to the drawing room to resume the story. As soon as they were seated, Ojaswipi said, Yes, Ayo, where were we? Ayo smiled a bit and began. Yeah, I became suspicious when she started to run away every time I came out with Awatare. He told me to watch carefully how she walked, but I could hardly see her feet whenever I came out with him. Even after Awatare warned me not to see her, I snuck out and met her again. That day, I decided to ask her name and also tie a long thread in her hair, which was something Awatare had asked me to do. But when I met her, I forgot everything about my plans. That day she asked me to go for a picnic with her to KASHONG Peak that coming Friday, which was 2 days away. She told me not to bring any of my friends but said some of her friends would be there. I agreed, and as we were going back, we met Awatari once again. She ran away as soon as she saw him. So did you go for the picnic? Asked Ojaswipi again. Ayo shook his head and said, The next day my father and our local pastor came to call me home. They told me that they had terrible dreams about me. I did not want to go back. I wanted to join her in the picnic, but I could not say no to our pastor, so I came back with them. Ojaswipi nodded her head and said, Good for you that you did so. Ayo wearily said yes and looked away. Then what happened after coming to the village? Questioned Ojaswipi. After a few days in the village, she came to my room. and pushed me down and accused me of betraying her. She repeatedly asked me why I had not come for the picnic when I had promised to. After that, she came back every other day and sometimes would not leave me even for days. Most of the time she was there by my bedside requesting me to come away with her. I wanted to go with her, but every time I tried, I felt too weak to move. I don't remember much of what happened, but I do remember a doctor giving me injection. When you came to my room, she looked scared and uncomfortable. Yesterday was the only day she left without saying a word to me. She ran out of the back door. Yes, I saw her too, said Oja Sweepy. Sweepy's husband brought some jaggery and hot water for them and left. Would you like to meet her again? She asked as she poured the hot water in the cups. Ayo looked at her, smiled a bit and said, Yes, I would love to, but now I'm scared to meet her. Oja Sweepy told him not to be afraid of her. She told him that God's power is greater than that of the devil. She said she could accompany him if he really wanted to see her again. She also told him that it would be good if he could tell her never to come back again. Ayo agreed. They decided to go to Ukhrul the next day and finish their task. Ayo got up early the next morning and cleaned his bike that had been lying unused for a long time. He dressed and got ready to leave. His mother asked him where he was headed. I'm going to bid adieu to someone, said Ayo. Just then, Oja Sweepy arrived and told his parents that they are going to Ukhrul to put a closure to something which was bothering Ayo. They asked no further questions and willingly agreed for the departure since it concerned the welfare of their son. On their way to Ukhrul, about 5 kilometers away from Halang village, they saw a child sitting by the roadside looking away from them. Ayo stopped the bike and asked, Hey, where is your mother? There was no reply. It was very unusual for any parents to leave their child in a lonely road. Can you hear me? Asked Ayo. This time the child turned back and behold, she was there. The childlike figure turned into the most stunning, beautiful woman. They never expected her to be there waiting for them. This time, Ayo could clearly see she was not stepping on the ground. It was like she was walking on air. Ayo could not believe his eyes that the girl whom he loved so much could conceal her true self for so long. Now he had seen her in true form. Oja Sweepy and Ayo, with mouth wide open, looked at each other without saying a word. She looked at Ayo and said, I will be waiting for you. Turning to Ayo, Oja Sweepy interrupted. Ayo, say what you have to say. Ayo tried to say something, but he was shivering and nothing seemed to come out of his mouth. You cannot touch him anymore. Now he is a child of God, said Oja Sweepy commandingly. The goddess Phila Ava looked at her angrily and said, I'll definitely defeat you someday, and disappeared. Ayo was too scared to move. Oja Sweepy laid her right hand on his head and prayed for him without closing her eyes. After the prayer, Ayo came back to his senses. They sat there for some time and decided to go back to their village. From that day onwards, Ayo dreamed of the goddess Phila Ava. Every night in his dream, she would come to call him. Some elders of the village advised him to go away to some faraway place. They believed that the gods and goddesses have their own territories, so if he moved away to some distant land, she would not be able to reach him. So the next year, Ayo moved to Dimapur, a bustling city in the neighboring state of Nagaland. He stayed with one of his uncles there for a few years. After Ayo left for Dimapur, the goddess Phila Ava could be seen loitering and asking people the whereabouts of Ayo. She stopped people who traveled late at night in the vicinity of Shirui and asked the same question to everyone, Have you seen my Ayo? Many people driving alone on the way between Lunghar to Ukhrul and Pali to Ukhrul confessed that they could see a beautiful lady in their rearview mirror, but when they stopped and turned back, nobody was around. These travelers, after reaching their destination, would fall sick and take time to recover. Sometimes she would even stop a bus on a lonely road and check. But no one ever got to know who the stranger was. They came to realize it only when they heard about the love story of Ayo and the goddess of Shiroi Kashong. In 1999, Ayo joined the Naga army where he faithfully served for almost 10 years in Dimapur region. His dead body was brought home in 2008, a collateral of factional rivalry. It was almost midnight when his dead body reached Ukhrul from Dimapur. They said that the whole night, sparkling lights were seen at Kashong Peak. Since the death of Ayo, no one has seen or heard of the goddess Phila Ava looking for another lover. Were they finally united? No one really knows. Maybe it was true love, even for the goddess. A few years after the encounter with the Shiroi Phila Ava at Halang Road, Oja Sweepi was invited by her colleagues to visit Kashong Peak. She could not refuse, but deep down she was a little hesitant. She prayed and fasted for many days before going. Finally the day arrived and they started early in the morning. They had to leave the vehicle at Shiroi Junction and trek up the steep mountain, which took them almost 3 hours. When they were admiring the blooming of the beautiful lilies, she saw a strange snake-like creature, just 1.5 feet long, but the size of an arm, crawling out from among the lilies to bite her. The staff that she used for climbing came handy. She struck it on his head and killed it. Then she looked up towards the sky and exclaimed, "We won." Those who visited the peak the next summer reported that the lilies had reduced to a great extent, and it's been that way ever since.